7 technologies that prove your car is actually a race car. You may not think about it every time you get in your car, but actually a lot of the tech you use on a daily basis comes directly from race cars. Racing is a great way to develop new tech and stress test it before it enters passenger vehicles, so the amount you have in your car might surprise you. Let's get started. Number 1. Push-button start. When you're motor racing, every second matters. This was the logic applied when using a push-button start in race cars. Why would you need a key anyway in a race car? Who's going to steal it? It wasn't until recently that car makers cottoned onto the fact that this was a great idea for us normal folk too. Everybody wants to save time in their day-to-day lives, so why not do it with push-button start? With the busy modern lifestyle, nobody has time to turn a key these days, so keyless entry and push-button start made perfect sense. Number 2. Disc brakes. Some people say brakes are the first modification you should do to your car. Although not always true, brakes are one of the most important components of a car. Racing teams thought so too, with race cars using disc brakes first in the 1950s. Disc brakes are more powerful, generate less heat, and are easier to manage than drum brakes, and racing proved this. Whilst drum brakes were the norm, car makers decided it was a good idea to try out these new brakes on standard passenger vehicles. Their success was so great that most of the modern cars use disc brakes, enabling people to stop faster and with greater control. Number 3. Multifunction steering wheels. We often hear about these insanely complicated F1 steering wheels, but actually when we look at our own wheels, they're not that different in principle. The modern Formula 1 race car has a steering wheel that's covered with a selection of buttons, dials, and displays. Car makers learnt from F1 teams and started adding more and more buttons to our steering wheels. Luckily, they're not as complicated or messy as Formula 1 cars, but they are there for roughly the same purpose. The most common uses of wheel-mounted controls are information screens, cruise control, and audio. Although often they are simple to operate buttons, more and more cars are adding smartphone-style swipes or touch control to their wheels. Number 4. Dual-clutch gearboxes. Dual-clutch gearbox technology actually dates back to the Porsche racing team in the 1980s. The purpose of the dual clutch was to obtain a quicker gear change to shave a few tenths of a second off their lap. The dual clutch system has 2 clutches instead of 1, so the car can prepare the next gear before shifting. The first series production car that had this feature was the Volkswagen Golf R32, with hundreds of cars now featuring it. As well as faster shifts, a dual clutch often results in greater economy too, compared to a torque converter. Number 5. Composite Materials. The first race car to have a carbon fiber monocoque chassis was the McLaren MP41, with the idea being that a lighter chassis would increase power to weight ratio. This worked so well in racing that some car makers decided to add it to their production models to increase acceleration and fuel economy. Cars like the BMW i3 and i8 both have a composite body structure, with a selection of BMW's M cars containing carbon fiber panels too. Fiberglass and carbon fiber reinforced plastic are the most common choices used by manufacturers, distributed in various places to shed unnecessary weight from their cars. Number 6. Safety structures. Would you believe me if I said your car contains the same technology that protects NASCAR drivers from rollover accidents? Well, since 2009, federal standards dictate that cars must be able to roll over and keep you safe, rather like that hefty roll cage in NASCAR. Racing cages are usually external and rugged-looking things, but the same strengthening techniques applies to most new cars on the inside behind the trim panels, especially in SUVs which are prone to rollover. Number 7. Aerodynamics. Look at any race car these days, and it often looks like a mess of carbon scoops, wings, fins, and splitters. These all have their purposes, whether that's to improve downforce, decrease drag, or add to mid-corner grip. This tech has trickled down to pretty much every car now, even including economy cars. Not long ago, the underside of most cars was an aerodynamic disaster of exhausts, tanks, and sticking out bits. Manufacturers have learned from racing and now employ underbody trays to create a flat bottom, which reduces drag and improves economy. So there you are. Which features did I miss? Feel free to like or dislike the video. I reply to every comment in the first 6 hours. Cheers!